Hi guys, I hope you had a good Camp NaNoWriMo, and shout out to Caitlin and Jules and everyone on Twitter and everyone that participated in Nano, either this one or November. And just wanted to do a quick update video, very quick. I did 67,000 words for Camp NaNoWriMo, and I did 30,000 more in May, and I wrote so many words that I felt like I was avoiding editing, because I think I've been avoiding editing for a long time. I hate editing. It is like homework. It is scary. I don't like it. And so I finally said I have to commit to an outline, because I've tried so many different ones. I've got to commit to one, and I've got to start editing my words. So what I did was, over here on my April Nano, I just click Control D just duplicates it. So I duplicated the words, then I changed the title to Dice, and that is to remind myself to cut this one up so I don't lose any of my original Nano words in case I make a mistake while I'm moving things. And so I had that as a duplicate, so it's just exactly the same. And then I committed myself to I just named it book 1 because mine is YA, so I have 3 books, and I was just writing like crazy. And if you guys don't know, this is like my 4th Nano writing my Merry Christmas book, and that's the character's name. But anyway, so this is what I've got so far. I've got 28,000 words cut from that original 67,000, and then I did 30,000 more the first week of May, which is why I have a cut on my finger that I'm healing now, because I got like an owie on my finger from typing too much in a dry climate here in New Mexico. But anyway, so I'm letting it heal. And this is also the universe telling me to edit all of my words because I've been avoiding it, because I avoid things. And editing was really hard. So that's what I did. I just cut and paste from this secondary file into this. Now this is 8 sections, and I just needed something as simple as my brain could process, because editing is hard anyway, and I do have complicated outlines, but I don't really, for some reason when I put those into Scrivener, it gets really confusing and I don't know what I'm doing, and then I'm like, well, maybe I should do it like normal people do and do it in Word or something. But I like Scrivener too much to do that, so I just wrote sort of arbitrary number of 80,000 words as my target, and then that broke my 8 sections down really nicely into 10,000 each. So probably the first one shouldn't be 10,000, it should be less, and maybe some of the middle ones might be even bigger. Maybe they might even go up to 15, but in general 80,000 is a very good target, and it, you know, it was evenly came out even, so I like that. And so that's just something to work towards. Obviously the first is going to be a little bit shorter, and the last might be shorter, and the middles might be different, but that just gives me a target. And I haven't set up this button here yet to do the colors, but I'll do that later for the progress bar. And so over here, in what I did was, it's going to be 8 sections, and then each section will have 3 sequences, so it'll be 24 sequences total. And the reason I did this is for screenwriting outlining. Act 1 will be roughly the first 2 sections. The last 2 sections equate to Act 3, and then the middle is the screenwriting, how you break up Act 2 into a Part 1 and a Part 2. And that's a screenwriting structure, and there's information out there if you want to Google it. Okay, so we have Section 1. These are the 3, I just named them A, B, and C. Like I said, I wanted to do things as simple as possible. I didn't want to think about specific chapters or titles or anything, because then my Scrivener starts looking really messy and it makes me confused, and I've tried that all down here with all these different other outlines, so I wanted simple. And that makes it you know, I just filled in some targets. Um, it's going to be probably shorter than this. My original draft, when I was drafting for Nano back in 2012, and then the subsequent Nanos, this first section has been upwards of like 25,000 words, because that's where you're putting in backstory and you're telling yourself the story as you draft it. So you're putting in huge swaths of backstory that you don't actually need in your actual story for readers. That just, when you're drafting, you're telling yourself the story, so it's okay to do that because you need to get it out, because obviously the author of the novel, you need to know what's happening. So don't worry about backstory if you're just drafting. But when you get to editing, you're going to have to take it out. So I'm going to have to go from 25,000 words to 10, and that's going to be difficult. And you can see I've got none of it done. I've got 19 words done. So you know it's hard and it's going to be difficult, and you're really going to have to condense a lot of things, almost as if you're just taking the very, very best, juiciest parts of that word count and putting it in. And so I wrote my 3 sequences down into, this is the first part, and it's, you're going to intro your main character here, you know, very cool. You're going to get, this is, and like I said, I haven't worked on this because this is going to take, this is not easy to put in as like all the other meat of the story. This is going to require a lot of condensing and editing. But intro your main character. Who is she? You know, their looks, job, their monetary situation, how they stand in the world, what is their world view like, what does she want? And I wrote, keep it simple. You know, what does she want? What is her goal for the story? What are her hopes and dreams? What's her damage? And I wrote here, hint, because just a little bit is enough, because you have the whole story to create her character arc. You don't need to overwhelm everyone with a long backstory of this is what happened to her and how she is at the beginning. You're going to put bits of that in through her whole character arc throughout the story, so you only need a hint. And I wrote, no backstory save for later as a reminder. Okay, then you're going to have here the second sequence, and this is going to be your inciting incident. Okay, and then here you're going to do a 60 paragraph check, and you're just going to make sure that, not including dialogue, you're 60 paragraphs in approximately, and that something's about to happen. You should be getting, it should be either happening or you should be very close to happening. And this is really true for genre fiction of any type, really, really true for YA, and just anything that needs a fast beginning. You need to do a 60 paragraph check and say 60 paragraphs, not including dialogue. Have I got to my inciting incident? Have I got to the thing that changes this part of where she stands in the world? This should no longer be relevant. It should be different. Something happens. Okay, and you should have, at some point in here, you need to have a sequence or a scene or something within the sequence of her showing that how if the reader was asking you the question, how should I feel about this character? You know, are they a good person, a bad person? Do they save a cat? In other words, from the book, you know, the ubiquitous writing book, Save a Cat, you know, what do they show that they're a good person, or do they kill a cat? Are they a villain? Are you writing a horror? You know, are you opening your book differently in a different genre? And then you're going to have, and this other dude, which is just what I wrote to remind myself. Most people have more than one character at the beginning. This could be any type of archetype of any type of character. It could be your secondary protagonist. It could be a villain. It could be the person that, a Gandalf type who comes in and puts them into their new world of, you know, where they're going. And, or someone, if you're writing more of a fairy tale type, someone that comes into their household and does something. Romance, obviously, this is going to be the dude. Okay, and then the last sequence, I just wrote half chapter here to remind myself that this is going to be a cliffhanger. This is not going to be a full sequence. This is going to be left on a cliffhanger to get people into the second sequence. In other words, I am going to write this whole sequence here, but probably when I break this into chapters, and I might break it into 2.5 chapters instead of 3 chapters, because I want to have something that is a cliffhanger to, you know, you don't want to fully resolve here, because you want them to move on to your second sequence. Your second section here in number 2. So you can write the full thing here when you're editing, but just remember that later. So here, they're either going to leave home with their hero, or they're going to meet some other complication. Like I said, in a fairy tale sort of situation, it would be something in the household. Yeah, or in a romance, that's the complication. Something here happens, and then I wrote here boot to the head, which it needs to be. Don't save your amazing stuff for later in the book, because everything is very, people are checking their Twitter. Everything is very condensed now. Put something amazing, exciting, just like, wow, just your WTF moment. Like, what is going to happen here that you're going to leave it on a cliffhanger, that they're like, yeah, I'm definitely finishing this book. I'm not putting it to the side. This is, how many pages in would that be? 10,000. That's not very many. That's like 25 pages in. So I think 25, 30 pages in, most people know if they're really going to enjoy a book or not. So don't save your good stuff for later. Put something there that's going to catapult the whole thing to a new level. And like I said, easier said than done, because I have no words here, but that's what's going to have to, that's what is going to make people want to read your story or not. And then go ahead and finish your sequence. Just remember not to leave it as a cliffhanger. But what happens here? Where's the conflict between? I wrote 2 dudes, but really I mean your main character, and maybe you have 2 main characters. Maybe you're doing dual point of view. But you should stick to two main characters and get their conflict going if you haven't already here. But again, here, save these for characterization, and then go on to here. And I think I'm running out of time because I'm almost at 15 minutes. But I hope you guys had a great NaNoWriMo, and if you didn't have a good NaNoWriMo, I'm sure you're doing life things like Caitlin and doing good stuff. And just remember, editing is not scary. Just tell yourself that, even though it is. And it's a lot of pressure. And I think we put pressure on ourselves to have it really, really perfect. But it doesn't need to be perfect, especially if you just like duplicate your words. So those words, those precious words are there, and you haven't messed them up, and you have something else you can just cut up and try it. Because I tried to write and tell myself, just try it, see how it works. And like I said, I've done much more work here in the other chapters of moving stuff, and I'm like halfway done, I think, with cutting this up. So I still have things to move over, and I don't have time to go through all of them. But if you want to know about beat sheets, you can look them up. And then I should probably, if you're doing fairy tales, it's different. So maybe I'll do, my next video might be on more genres that tend towards women's fiction and fairy tale type fiction and those type of things, if you're interested in that. And yeah, because that beat sheet is probably a little bit harder to find than the regular, hero's journey, Christopher Vogler and Joseph Campbell and all that. Like the hero's journey, Save the Cat is a hero's journey book, but it also applies to comedy. But if you're doing something else, women's fiction or something, we'll do another video on finding beat sheets for that. And thank you guys for watching. Bye.